All right, we're going to continue on. We got through the first 5 parts of this 13-part project yesterday. If you've not already done so, please copy the part 5, all of its folders contents, put it into part 6, bring up for part 6 the index.html file, and change the title on it from part 5 to part 6. As a review, what we did yesterday was I gave you part 1, which was just this hello world. So we did that. Then we went into part 2, where we added the nav bar at the top, and this was our brand, and we added the home page, and we made that home page active. We added the about link and the contact link. Then we went to part 3, where we did a similar thing, but instead of having it fixed on the top, we fixed it on the bottom. And instead of having a default nav bar, we had an inverse nav bar. From there, we went to part 4, where we added some social media icons. This is the first time that we added in a little bit of CSS. In particular, we added the inherit there for the color, so this turned gray. All right. And then we finished up yesterday with part 5, where we added the Jumbotron. And ideally, you've got all that done, and the Bootstrap 3 here brought us to our Bootstrap 3 page, as you can see, 3.3. All right, and our Bootstrap 4 brought us to the new and improved Bootstrap 4 page. All right, and again, it's not mandatory that you have a Jumbotron. It's also kind of standard that if you are going to have one, you've got an H1 header, which shows in a little bit bigger text, that you put 1 or more paragraphs in there, and you put 1 or more buttons. But none of that's mandatory, just so you know. To very quickly show you what we're going to do today, all right, I have no idea how far we're going to get. In an ideal world, we'll get up at least through the first 10. So we'll do 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We'll see if that works or not. If we get 9 done, fine. If we get 8 done, not as good, but fine. If we get 7 done, there's something wrong with me. All right, so we've gotten through the first 5. This is what we're going to put in for our next step here. So we're going to add some headings, and we're going to add some text. Now, the text that you add is up to you. I will have text in the example that I'm going to put up in just a minute, this text. If you decide you don't want that text, you could put in your own. Notice I pretty much tried to keep the text pretty much the same size. You notice that one's a little bit longer, all right? But it's pretty much the same, so it looks somewhat symmetrical in nature. You don't have to do that. I just thought it looked a little better like that. So that's what we'll do for part 6. Then in part 7, all right, it looks like we haven't done anything, but we're going to start looking at fonts, okay? And you're gonna see that. And then in part 8, we're going to add, as you can see, we're going to add those images that I copied over for you yesterday. All right. Then, and we're also going to come in here and start creating what's called a modal form, so we'll look at that. In part 9, we're going to come in, and this may not look any different, but I'm going to show you Google Fonts and allow you to pick whatever font you want to choose, or fonts, all right, to make this look a little bit different. Then in part 10, and like I said, ideally we'll get that far today, we're going to come in and we're going to change that contact so it's a regular form. All right? And it's not going to go anywhere, but that's okay. And then if we get that far today, then tomorrow we'll pick it up here, okay? And we're going to do, it doesn't look like it's any different, but notice now if we put our mouse over it, how the colors change and stuff, so we're going to do that, okay? Then when we get to part 12, that's when we're going to make these things animate a little bit. And then in part 13, we'll bring everything together. That's the end. I just made it a little smaller so you can see it. So we've got the animation, we've got the coloring, etc. on here. Now we'll have an about page, which will have our very simple little slideshow in here. All right, and we'll have our contact form, and that'll finish this up. All right. Now, I was mentioning this to Colin yesterday. He mentioned it to me. If we don't finish this today, we'll finish it tomorrow. All right, at least I'm fairly confident that we'll finish it tomorrow. Then what I'm going to show you after that is I'm going to go back and rebuild virtually this entire thing using a product called MobiRise. And with MobiRise, I'm going to rebuild this, and I won't have to write a lick of code. 100% of what I do will be drag and drop. Now, it's not going to look identical to what we've done. It'll look very similar, but what you'll notice is we'll be able to, if you want to follow along, I'll have you go out to mobirise.com and download the software. And if you do that, all right, we'll all of us will be able to get it done in at the most a half an hour. And if you say, yeah, right. I taught this to kids this summer. We had a summer adventure series camp at the St. Louis campus. So I was down there for a week, and I had middle school kids. I started showing them Bootstrap. It was so obvious they had no interest, none. So I kind of said, screw it. After I started going through it, we went into MobiRise, and I had them drag and drop, and they were all building their own websites by the end of the day. All right. So it's not that this is a real difficult thing to do. You lose a little bit of control. We'll talk about that. That'll either be Thursday or Friday. All right. We'll see how it works. All right. Tomorrow, when you come in here, first thing tomorrow, you will take the written test on Chapter 10. We will review that by the end of the period today. I also have, I didn't email them to you yet, but I will. I've got, for both chapters 11 and chapters 12, I've got your test reviews. And I will email them to you during the break today. So today, we're going to go over as many of these lessons by around 10:30 or so as we can. All right, maybe 10. Then we're going to go over chapter 12, which is a fairly short chapter. Then we're going to go over the test review for chapter 11. And then we're going to go and do the completed test review, go over it one more time for chapter 10. So, short story long, I guess, but chapter 10 written test tomorrow, chapter 11 written test on Thursday, chapter 12 written test on Friday. What that will mean is that next week, as soon as you come in here, we will be going over chapters 13 and 14. All right? We will get those done next week, and you will get what literally will be the equivalent of a midterm. All right? You will have about a week to work on it, including much class time. Ideally, you're going to have at least 2 days next week of class time to work on it. What I'd like to do next week is, boom, you come in here on Monday. I lecture on chapter 13, not a particularly long chapter. Then I immediately do the test review for chapter 13 with you. That should ideally get us to about 9:30. Then you get 2.5 hours to work on this midterm. Then Tuesday, we do the same thing with chapter 14. 2.5 hours for midterm. Wednesday, you'll have the written test for chapter 13. Then the rest will be lab. Thursday will be the written test for chapter 14. Then the rest will be lab. All right? And then your last hands-on test then would be Friday, a week from Friday. Does all that stuff make sense? All right. I mean, I'll go over it with you again. That was a lot to throw at you quickly, but just so you have an idea as far as what's going on. So again, if you have not done so, please go in, and we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to do 6 right now. If you want to use my text, that's fine. If you don't want to use my text, just so you see this, a couple sites that you can go out to. If I type in here Lipsum, all right, there's a Lipsum.com, but there are all sorts of Lipsum generators. And I don't know where the one is, but there's all sorts of Lipsum. But if I go out to Lipsum.com and I say, for example, I come out here and I say I want 3 paragraphs. Boom. It gives me 3 paragraphs. You can do that. If you want to use what I did, which was tvipsum.com, I kind of like that because it gives themes from old television shows, Gilligan's Island and stuff like that, so I use that. If you don't want to do either one of those and you want to just key in what I've got here, that's also fine. So I'm taking for granted that you've got part 6 up and on your screen here. So you've got all of this. You've changed the title to Part 6. There's nothing new. I'm just going to start working my way down. Nothing new, nothing new, nothing new, nothing new. All right. All the way till we get to the end of our Jumbotron class. All right, so that's on mine. If you spaced it out like I did, the first 95 lines that are in here, none of this has changed. Everybody hear that? So I want you to get down into the area that's after the ending div for your Jumbotron class, and we're going to put this in. So you'll notice it starts on line 98 and it goes all the way to line 158. So it's about 60 lines. I spaced it out so it's a little easier to read, okay? But you'll want to do something like this. So I'm going to leave this up there for about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to scroll down and leave that up there for 5 minutes. Then I'm going to scroll down and leave that up there for 5 minutes. Does all that make sense? Then we're going to go over this. So I'm going to get the heck out of the way and leave this up here. And like I said, it's 8:18 and about 8:23 or so, I'll scroll it down. Now, some of you may still be typing. It's fine. I'm not going to move it, but I do want to show you something if you look up on the screen here. Typically in your content area in a Bootstrap page, your stuff is put into what are called rows. And the thing to realize about a row is rows are based on columns. Each column should ideally equal 12. So this says 4. We're going to have another one underneath it that says 4, and another one underneath that that says 4. If you add those together, 4, 4, and 4 are 12. So that it'll work its way across the screen. So this paragraph will take up the first third, the next paragraph the second third, and the last paragraph the third third. Does that make sense? All right. This, literally what this means is, if I've got a medium-sized device or larger, have this take up 4 columns. So if my device, and a medium-sized device, is either a laptop or it's a tablet, I don't remember. All right, but it's one or the other. And this, whether you've noticed this or not yet, and I'll come right back to this, but I want to show you this. It's fairly important to show you this. So if I come through here and I run this, what I want you to understand is this is what's called mobily responsive. What do I mean? Well, notice if I start shrinking it, see what happens? Do you notice how when it gets to a certain size, this is now 1 column? All right. And then when it gets bigger, it flattens itself back out again. When it hits a certain point, back out to 4 columns, or 3 columns, I should say. All right. And it's important that you realize that because Bootstrap is software that's built to be mobily responsive from the get-go. All right? So this is going to be the first column. In H3, I don't think that's new to anybody. You know what a paragraph tag is. The only thing that's here that's new, a couple things. All right? We've got here class equal warning. When you set up buttons, every button that you use with Bootstrap must have a class of BTN, which is short for button. And we're also adding a warning class. That's going to make that button kind of a reddish color. You'll see it in just a couple minutes, or if you've run it already, maybe you've seen that. We want to open this in a new window. This line here, you know what roll equals is because you have that on your test. But maybe this is the most important one because if a person is using a screen reader, so if they're blind, all right, what we're doing right here, what Bootstrap allows you to do, we're using a hyperlink and we're turning it into a button. Did everybody hear that? This is a button and it looks just like a button, but it's a hyperlink. Now, if you don't put the roll equal button, a screen reader won't realize that and it'll think it's a hyperlink. Now, will that matter? It may or it may not. But the point is, if you're going to take a hyperlink and make it into a button like we're doing it here, you should always, always, always put roll equal button on there. All right? Now, especially if you're a slow typist, I'd recommend grabbing everything that's in here, everything. From the div class equal MD4 down to the bottom div, copying it to the clipboard, and then dropping it in right underneath. Because the only thing you technically have to change here then is make that CSS3 and change the URL and make it button danger. All right, so you have to make almost no changes. Again, especially if you're not a very good typist, I would suggest you just do some copy and paste and make some very simplistic changes. And after you've done that, you can do it one more time. This is just filler text anyway, so it really doesn't matter if you put the same text you had in there before. I could care less. You're not turning this in anyway. So I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to finish that up. Again, there's really no reason that you have to put in new text. All right. You can if you want to, but you do not have to. Please, though, come in here and make these changes. So where this said HTML5, change it to CSS3, change the URL, change it from button warning to button danger, and change that to CSS3. So that's about 3 or 4 things that you have to change, and that's it. After you've done that, good time to do a save, and then grab everything from the div on line 121 to the div on line 139. So grab everything in here, right there, copy it to the clipboard, and drop it right underneath where you are. That'll be the last one. All right, that'll save us a little bit of time then. Okay. If that really bugs you, you can always go back to later, and you can add different text if you want to do that. Everybody have that done? All right, I'm going to arrow it down further then. And make sure after that, if you have not already done so, that's the final div then for the main content area, and then that should be your div for your container. I believe that's all we have to do for this one. So save it, run it, see if you've got the 3 paragraphs, and each paragraph should have a button underneath it, and if you did what I did, one button should say HTML, and when you click it, it should go to W3 School's HTML tutorial in a new window. The second button should say CSS3, it's a different color, and when you click it, it should go to W3 School's CSS3 tutorial, and the third one is a different button, it's a default, so it should go to the getbootstrap.com site. Make sure you save, and I'll go right back. I just want to make sure. I don't think there's anything else we have to put in here, but I want to just check. I'll come right back. Nope, that's it. All right. So when you get all that done and you run it and it looks similar to what I showed you before, save it. Save everything, close it, go back, copy everything from your Part 6 folder to your Part 7 folder, open up Part 7, change the title on there to Part 7, and then we'll pick it up there in just a minute. I see Colin doing this too, and you might all want to do that. Go back now, make sure that your site is responsive. Change your screen size and see if it goes, and if it doesn't, there's something you forgot to type in. All right, because it should be responsive. And sorry, I know a lot of people don't like it. Yeah, I'm typing, don't talk. But when you get your midterm, you're going to have to create basically a Bootstrap site. You can use this one as a start and make changes to it. You can do it any way you want. You can, but it's going to be bootstrapped. I've got to talk to Evan and see if he'd allow you to use MobiRise or not. I don't know. All right. Anybody have any questions on this one? You tried to do something and it didn't work. Yes. It's all, well, then you've got a comment that you started that you didn't end. It's right there. Go to the end of that line. All right. Yeah, put it.
Where do you end the class row?
I think it's this one where I said main content area, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Yep, that's it. So that really, I guess, instead of main content area, which it is, it shouldn't say begin main content area, end main content area here. This should say end row. Yes. Yes.
When I shrink the page, I
right, so you're saying that when you shrink this, and you shrink it way down,
Yep.
like that, you're not seeing that?
No.
All right, I could take a look, but chances are real good you've got a line of code that's missing, or you commented something out. It also could be in there, and it may be, for some reason, it's there. I'll tell you what, go back. It might be a padding thing, and it's there, but it's just, we gotta add some padding. Okay. Anybody have any problem with that? Yeah, you got the same type of thing that Christopher had. I've not seen that before. Can you go back to your CSS file? Let's go on, and I think it may work itself out, for lack of better words. All right, so we now have come in and we've got part 6 done. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this was part 6. All right. Now, for those of you who said, you know, I'm not sure why my nav bar is showing this thick. I don't know what's going on with that, but if something isn't showing, ideally when we go a little further, it will show. I have no idea why it would stop showing. All right,
Did you add some padding in our CSS file?
I thought the only padding that I added was the top padding. We did that in the last period, so let's double check. So this is 6. Let me open up the CSS and see. Oh, padding bottom. There you go. Thank you. All right. Why don't you go open up your CSS file and add that and see if that fixes the problem that you've had. Thank you. Right. All right, Evan. I appreciate it. You know, I've said this to you before, but much of this stuff when you're building a site is trial and error. All right. The good news about using a package like Bootstrap is even if I copy that to my phone, it would pretty much look the way it does when I shrink it down all the way. And that's pretty darn good. So there's work that you have to do. All right.
For the Bootstrap button, it was button and then button. Was it button warning or what was that?
For which one? The Bootstrap one? It was button default. Now, did that help yours, Christopher?
I'm looking right now. Yep.
Okay. And Tony, did that help yours? Okay. All right. So again, go back in then. And let's bring up part 7. Come on, there you go. And for part 7, if you take a look up on the screen here, let's see what we're changing. I want to make sure I'm telling you the right thing. Looking at this quickly and trying to figure out what changed between this version and the previous one. Nothing there. Okay, we're going to add that. All right. For part 7, if you look up on the screen here, right now, when you click home, it stays where you are. If you click about, you get an error because there's nothing in there. It's looking for your about page. There isn't one. We don't build that till the last step. All right. But right now, if you click contact, nothing happens. But we're going to change that. We're going to add this. It's stupid right now, but what I'm showing you here is what's called a Modal Dialog box. All right? And when you click it, it'll go away. So this is what we're going to build here. And I don't think there's really very much that you have to key in. I have to remember where it is. Yep. All right. So after you've got your footer, right after the footer area, we're going to put in this. Okay? Let's see if I can get all of it in here. After your footer area, add what is shown right here. So what is it? About 20 lines of code. All right? You can change that to your own email address. You can leave mine. It really and truly does not matter. All right? And I think there'll be one more change we'll have to make, and that's up above, but we'll see. So go ahead and key that in, please.
Did it start a new thing, like end footer, and then?
Yeah, we ended our footer, and then we're starting a new div right here.
Okay.
So this is right after your end footer comment and your end footer tag. Give you 2 or 3 more minutes, and I'd like to go over what's in here. All right, and again, I know some of you type slower than others, but I'd like to just take a minute to go over what's in here. First of all, hopefully you realize by now, these are two different classes. This is adding a Bootstrap class called Modal, and this is adding a Bootstrap class called Fade. All right, and again, Bootstrap is made up of, I've heard Bootstrap described as CSS on steroids, because it's CSS with a bunch more classes and a bunch more operability. The ID for this is contact. We're making a contact for the div in case we want to add something to our CSS. The role is dialog. Again, that will tell a screen reader that this is going to be a dialog. All right? If you look up on the screen here, I'm asking you a question. You may or may not know the answer, but if you do, feel free to shout it out. If I do this, if I do a Control P, all right, this is a print dialog box. Okay, I think you know that. You probably have used it before. But it's a special kind of dialog box. Does anybody know what it is? It's referred to as a modal, M-O-D-A-L, dialog box. I can't continue on in here unless I either cancel that or print. So it's got control, basically, of the system. Well, what we want to do is we want to make a modal dialog in here. So that's what you see in here. All right? That modal dialog will contain modal content. That modal content will contain a header that says contact info, a body that says, for general inquiries, please email me at jpscott@rankin.edu, thank you, and a footer that's got a button on it that says close. So again, if I run this, all right, and I'm going to shrink this down, but if I click the contact right here, see if I can, I don't know if it'll allow me to keep both these on the screen at once or not. All right. So you can see what's on the screen. That's the run. So again, what we have here, the header that says contact info, so that goes up there. The body that says, for general inquiries, please email me. We could have put line breaks in here. We could have made this as big as we wanted to. We could have added an image. We could have added a logo. You can put in there whatever you want to, need to, have to put in. Then we had our footer, which we put in as a button, primary meaning it's blue, and data dismiss equal modal, which means when we click this, we want that modal dialog to go away. Does all that make sense? All right. And I'm going to say, yeah, Jeff, yeah, hell, whatever. It makes sense. But if I go through here and I type in Bootstrap version 3, and we've done this before. I don't want that. Come on. Bootstrap version 3. All right. And I hit enter. And it's going to give me this. So this is where I want to go. So Bootstrap version 3. The reason I'm showing you this is if you say, I'm never going to remember this. I'm not going to remember half the stuff that you're talking to me about. All right? You can always go back here, and I think it's under components, but we'll find out. Looks like it's not under components. CSS. Somewhere in here, all right, they have a thing in here that talks about modal. Okay, I can always come in here and somewhere in here there's also a search, but I don't know where it is offhand. But I can come in here and look. All I'm telling you is if you look enough, what you're going to find in here is what you need, for lack of better words. All right? Was everybody able to finish that one up? It's not working? All right. All right, I'll come and help you too. All right. What's the problem? Oh, you just didn't finish it? Okay. So what happens when you run it? Okay, I'm wondering if... Guys, I got to scroll up for a second, and I'll scroll it right back down again. Okay, you've got to add this line, I think. Okay? Everybody, go where you've got, near the top of your screen where you've got your links, add that data toggle equal modal. I knew there was something that had to be added. See if that fixes it, okay? This is way up at the top where you've got your nav bar. So you've got your index, your about, and your contact. Right now, instead of contact, it says just a hashtag. Make it hashtag contact. So make sure your last LI up there looks like this. Boy, I don't know what I'm about to tell you. I don't know if this is happening to any of you, but I've got charter email for my personal email. I have never gotten as many messages. Like I got one this morning. It said it was from my brother. I know, looking at it, all it had in there was a URL. Boy, if you get anything like that, please never click it. All right, that may introduce a virus that literally eats up your hard drive. Did everybody get a chance to put this in so I can move that back down?
It's still not working.
All right. All right. Does yours work now, Matthew?
No.
What? No? Okay.
Mine like fades, but it doesn't bring up the contact page.
Sounds like that's what his does too. Yes, it is. So my guess is you're missing a line of code with both of them. I don't know what it is, but you're missing a line of code someplace. I don't think, I'll check the CSS. I don't believe we had to change any CSS for this, but I will look just to be sure. That's the same CSS we had previously. So there's no new CSS there. All right, we're going to take a break, but before we do, I want to show you something, okay? My counterpart in St. Louis, his name is Evan Gudbested. And Evan, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, Evan is getting married, and I don't know why he picked this date, but he's getting married the day before graduation in May, okay? So what Evan did last year, I'm going to show you this, okay? This is what Evan did for the students' midterm project. What he said was, he gave me some pictures, him and his fiance, etc. And he said, we're getting married, and I'll give you information about the venue, etc. Want you to build me a site. Okay? And he got permission from the people at Rankin that what he did was he went through them and picked the one he thought was best. And the one he thought was best, he literally got regular hosting for it, and that person got $100. All right? So I want to show you. So this was a first-year student last year. Someone who did not go over, like we're doing right now, did not go over a long Bootstrap example. He showed them a video and said, go do it. And this is what the winning one built. All right, that's Evan right there. That's his fiance. Now this is one page where you can make stuff scroll. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, but that's what he's got. And then there's information about the ceremony, etc. See that? There's their story. So they've got pictures of them. He's got a gallery in here too. and travel accommodations, etc., for people who are coming to the wedding. All right? So these were people who had no more experience, no more ability than any of you have. All right? And I have to talk to him to see what he wants as far as setting something up for this year. I have an idea. I'm not even going to share it with you because I want to see what he thinks of it. All right? And then as soon as he tells me what he thinks of it, all right, I will let you know. Okay? That will be sometime next week. So again, by the end of next week, we'll be done with our book, testing and everything, and then probably the following week, all right, the following week, you're going to have to work on this midterm project. Okay? All right.
Mine still doesn't work.
Well, I can print you out the hard copy. I don't know what's wrong. All right? So I'll do that right now. Does yours work yet, Matthew?
Doesn't.
All right, I'll print you both out one. The rest of yours, does it work?
Can I get one of the hard copy too?
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'll print out 8 of them. Is there anybody who doesn't want a hard copy? All right, 1. Anybody else who doesn't want a hard copy? 2. Then I'll print out 6 of them. Again, if you have finished, if yours does work, save it, get out, grab everything from part 7, copy it into part 8, open up the index.html for part 8, change the title on it, and take a break. It's 8:55. Let's come back at 9:10, please.
I was missing one letter. I got it.
Okay, good.
That's one.
That's what he said, what Christopher said. So, yeah, it doesn't take much.